to another episode of I Need a Session. I'm Kim Wilson, your host. If this is your first time joining, this show is all about self-empowerment. I created a safe space for people to share their stories. I believe every human being has a story that is connected to the healing, the growth, or development of another human being. Once again, I have a wonderful show lined up for you. And 5, 4, 3, 2, hit it. Meet Dr. DeAndre S. Pickett, a Cincinnati native who has worked tirelessly for the last 17 years to advocate for the families and children within the metro Atlanta communities. DeAndre continues to volunteer with community organizations such as Habitat for Humanity, American Cancer Society, the Special Olympics of Georgia, and many others. He moves at full speed as he serves as the executive director for his organization named For Brighter Futures Foundation. DeAndre recently authored his first book, Run Till I Finish, Life Lessons I Learned While Stopping to Tie My Shoes. DeAndre gets invited regularly to provide lectures and professional development trainings throughout the country and continues to secure his spot as an activist, a scholar, and a trailblazer, blazing the paths of young men and women to follow. Well, good evening. Welcome to another session. Welcome to another episode of I Need a Session. I'm your host, Kim Wilson, joined by my colleague, my buddy, Dr. DeAndre.
Hello. You made me sound so smart.
Listen, you all are in for a treat, because I cut up with him.
Yeah. So I already got my cup ready, so go ahead.
So normally, the vision for the show, you know what? I'm getting a little feedback. Okay. And so you all, if you're experiencing any feedback on your end, just let me know, because I can't see the comments like I usually do. So just send me a text. So normally I would start out with a little music therapy. That was the vision for the show, because I think music is universal and we don't even have to speak the language, but it opens the heart ready to receive information. But on this episode, we don't have music. When I put the vision together, I did not imagine all of the barriers that can come along with that. So this project is supposed to be fun and smooth and easy. And if I can't do that, I cannot be afraid to move on and let, something go. So for this particular episode, I had to let that go. All right. So onward and upward. Let's go. So, Dr. Pickett.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I've known, I think I've known you probably about 4 years now. We met at a conference. We were both a part of a professional organization. We met at the conference. And so, you've just been a bundle of joy ever since. But, I didn't get to know you until actually I thought I knew you. But, when I read this book, and I don't want to waste any time. I want to get right into the book, because we have so many nuggets and sessions inside of this book. So let's get right to it. Now, the title, like I said in the intro, Run Till I Finish, Life Lessons I Learned While Stopping to Tie My Shoes. Well, honey, lace up, baby. Let's go.
Yes, lace up.
So, I want to start with this very first sentence that stood out for me. Okay, you said, okay, first of all, let me tell you, each chapter, I like how each chapter has a principle. So for that alone, it is worth purchasing this book. So by the time we get through this book, I'm sure people are going to be hitting that Amazon button, purchase. And that is my wish for you, because I think the language that's in this book is very, I think it's helpful. Mm-hmm. So let me start with this. I want to start with Mao 2.
Okay.
So Mao 2,
I had to grab my book. And I was like, let me make sure I remember what we're talking about here.
Okay, so Mao 2 is, don't allow your walk in humility to be governed by total contradiction. So there's a statement in here where you wrote, in my life, I grew up with my mom, grandmother, and aunt. My mom had me at 17 and my aunt was 14. Like most families, mine reared me to be the best at everything I set out to do. I was very gifted and talented as a young man, but I always felt my best wasn't good enough. I felt I had to be more to compete on certain levels. Contrary to popular belief, I had a hard time fitting in certain circles. Most of my life, I was one of the few Black kids that lived in my community. So my identity crisis started early. I was too Black for some groups and not Black enough for others. I got teased from family members and got friends because I was different from their kids. I mean, that's a whole show right there. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I want to even start with the word identity crisis, because I'm sure even back then didn't even know to use that term to understand I'm having an identity crisis.
Yeah, and I think so often, and first of all, thank you for having me here and being able to have this kind of discussion about the book. But I've not shied away from this concept of telling people that, growing up, I really had a hard time struggling to figure out who I was. And, sometimes we place our young men in these boxes, right? They have to be a certain thing, a certain way. And if they step outside that box, or if they step outside the norm, then they're different, they're awkward, they're weird, and so I had to experience those struggles. And so because I was told so many times by family members and or their friends that he does this different, he does this weird, I thought I was normal. But unfortunately, it was the perpetuated notion placed upon me that made me feel different. And so I didn't know I wasn't normal or I didn't know I was not being normal until someone plugged that into me. And so a lot of times as adults, we don't know the type of issues we're already placing on our children before they even have a chance to explore who they are. We're literally crippling them before they even have a chance to, we're crippling before they even have a chance to walk into who they're supposed to be. So for me, it started very early, and I had to really struggle with that. And it took even in my adulthood, a while to even grasp that.
Yeah. And the other thing that stood out for me in that whole passage, you said I got teased from family members and family friends. I just want to go right there, because a lot of times we are ignoring the bullying, the dismissing that goes on inside of family. Before somebody hurt you in the world, somebody in your family hurt you first, because they're open and they have access. And we call it lighthearted teasing. And it's not teasing, especially when the person does not like being teased. And just a lot of times people get bullied by their cousins and siblings and feel unaccepted before they even go out into the world.
And the thing about this is actually, before your cousins do it, it's actually the adults that do it, because the cousins have to get it from somewhere, right? So your class, so if they see it's okay to mess with this person, mess with that person, or if they hear the conversation that you're having on the phone with certain things, because they don't just get it, they don't know. See, children don't know difference until you teach them difference, right? Yeah. Children don't understand it until. So for us, we're normal until they drop that seed to hear that something's not normal. So that's why you have to be very careful about the conversation you have around your kids, and be very careful thinking they're not hearing. So it was actually the adults that started it. And I didn't really get teased a lot by my cousins and my young people. It was more so the adults. And I think that in itself is a conversation we have to have. We've discussed on my show often that phrase that I can't stand, what goes on my house stays in my house. But then you have to ask yourself the question, what happens when that thing in the house is the thing that's tearing you apart? So we have to be very careful about these cliches and things that we speak, realizing that could be actually damaging to our souls.
Yes. You know what? I can remember being in like elementary school, like second grade, and hearing some teachers talk about another student, and they called her hot and fast. And when I was growing up as a little girl, you do not want to be called hot and fast. Once you got that title of hot and fast, it's just like people saw you a certain way and they treated you a certain way. Yeah.
And it's sad, but it's true.
Yeah. And I just even want to skip through really quickly, just even, that whole colorism thing, not being Black enough in one group and being too Black, too dark, that whole thing that we, especially in the Black community, because it certainly can impact self-acceptance. And self-acceptance is a huge thing when it comes to just feeling confident and being in love with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And it really touched bases heavily because like I said, I grew up in areas where I was one of 6 Black kids in my whole school. And so I had to be very careful at times, because I couldn't be too Black, because I didn't want to be again, deemed the awkward kid in the all white school. But then I had to go and try to prove myself to family, friends, cousins, and colleagues because I talked proper. I talked white. I didn't dress like everyone else. And so the fact that we put, again, our kids in these boxes, we put these stereotypes, and the fact of the matter is, your masculinity and manhood, that, we look at things, and that we look at that as a certain way as well. Like, in order to be classified as a man, you have to do this, this, and this. And I find that funny that some of the things that we classify as manhood, I would say that there's women obviously doing manhood better than some of us men, because the things that we classify as manhood. So, successful car, your house, car, this and that. I know a lot of women who got that all by themselves. So, and then, we also place this whole manhood on, making, when it's little girls, you talk about fast and hot. When it's little girls, if a young lady, has, sex or whatnot with a person, she's deemed a certain word. When the son or the male has it, it's a rite of passage. Mm-hmm. And so those are those issues that, again, we have to continue to have, those discussions we have to continue to have about the double standards and the inadequacies within our own culture.
Yes. So I want to jump to, I want to go to that word you talk about in the book, being when you are different and if you're called weird and how people put you in a box when they can't quite figure you out. We come to, especially as a male, this whole thing of being labeled as gay when people don't have enough information about you. Talk to me a little bit about that, and just even feeling like you're just trying to figure yourself out and somebody trying to tell you who you are before you even know who you are, just dealing with being put in a box.
And it's so funny because of the fact that, again, it goes back to the conversation about what we deem, normal to be, right? The normal boy, if you don't, I was always different because of the things that I liked. I loved the arts. I loved music. I loved singing. I loved acting. I loved dancing. I loved everything about the arts, but I also I loved sports as well. Now, I didn't like the conventional, I guess, traditional black male sport of, I liked football, but I didn't feel like playing it. I was more of a runner. So I loved running. I loved wrestling. I loved baseball. I loved all these other things. And so anything that didn't fit into the norm. The other thing I realized is that my mom was a young mom. I said before, my mom had me at 17. My mom, the people in the environment around, they were, her group of people, and they always encouraged things differently. The one thing I will always say about my mother is I appreciate the fact that even though she was young and she wasn't sure exactly what to do, as it pertains to me as a young man, she never crippled my individuality. She never faltered to peer pressure, even though she was pushed at times. She never faltered to peer pressure. And it takes strong parents, it takes strong individuals to continue to encourage the individuality of your children, right? To continue to encourage that, because we have, I would hate for, Alvin Ailey's parents to have crippled his individuality. I would hate for Alice Walker or Viola Davis or even Chadwick Boseman and the individuals. I would hate for them to have crippled their individuality, and we have never have gotten the excellence, the Black excellence that they are and became. And so that for me is what I truly believe we have to be very cognizant of, is making sure that we continue to allow our young people to just explore. They don't know what they don't know what they like. They don't know what they don't like. Allow them to explore. Don't put this perpetual notion in their minds that they aren't. No, allow them to explore, because they don't know who they are until somebody put it in. When these kids start saying, well, I'm this, I'm that. Well, they learned that from someplace, whether it is I'm gay or not, or again, allow them to explore that idea of, because they don't know those words. They don't know those concepts until you drop them into the atmosphere. So just allow them to be and allow them to blossom what I believe God intended them to be.
Yes. All right. So we moving on to another mile. We get ready to go to another mile.
Keep running.
Hold on, here we go. All right. So mile 4, biting your tongue hurts. So don't do it. Biting your tongue hurts. So don't do it. And one of that stood out for me, two things spoke to me with that particular chapter. Because one, yes, we do want to lift our voice and we want to say what we mean and mean what we say. At the same time, you know, we want to have some balance in there. But when we don't speak our truth and stand in there, that's like biting your tongue. And when you bite your tongue, that hurts. Talk to me a little bit about, where you were with this chapter.
So this chapter is one of my favorites. Not my favorite. I'll tell you at the end which one's my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. And it's more so because of the fact that I think this particular chapter talks about this concept of being careful, because we know that life and death lies in the power of our tongue. It talks about being very careful about what you put into the atmosphere, right? Whether that is positive or negative. You have to be very careful about not coming off as hypocritical, right? You have to that's why I say, and also being mindful that you don't have to get everybody together. You don't have to respond to everything, and you don't have to mention everything. Ain't trying to clap back. Everything can be a clap back, right? Sometimes silence is an easy killer.
Yes.
Sometimes people will get irritated with your silence.
Yes, they will.
And I appreciate about that. Sometimes I'd rather just be silent and let you think what you think. And I'd rather just allow whatever it is to concoct itself. And so in this chapter, I was more so talking about, just being very mindful that sometimes you have to do correction in love. Sometimes you have to be very careful about walking in hypocrisy. Also being okay if people don't agree with how you think. Yes. Being okay with that. And then lastly, don't get judged. Don't get in yourself if someone challenges your views. Just be able to be steadfast in your view. People, you want people around you in your circle who aren't going to just be yes people all the time, right? You want people to challenge you and to hear what you have to say, and you want to be able to have good discussion. And so this chapter really talked about, let's just talk about it. And be able to have those uncomfortable conversations. Because if I can't have an uncomfortable conversation with you, if I can't be real with you, we need to change our connection altogether.
Honey, you don't have to get everybody together. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay. Hold on. Listen, just in case you haven't realized it, the session has started.
Yeah. You ain't got to get everybody. You ain't got to read everybody. The library doesn't always have to be open.
Yes. Okay. So mile 7. Freedom should never give you the option. No, freedom should never give you the option to dishonor yourself. And let me go right here. So, and I thought this was, I want to just kind of read some of this passage. And you were having a conversation with one of your mentors, Dr. Morrow.
Yes.
And this was at a time in your life where, you felt like giving up. I mean, this is, you all have to get the book to read. There's just too many details. I cannot give you all those details. You're going to have to get the book to figure out why he wanted to give up and what that looked like for him. So, but I do want to talk about, I want to read the little part, what his mentor said to him. He said, DeAndre, if I could move the mountain for you, I surely would. But what would you have learned? It's not my mountain. I was only sent to this earth to teach you how to climb it. Now know, much of the pain you are enduring, you allowed it. You invited heartache and misery to enter and dwell in your space. Because of such, you began to change how you handle life. Son, freedom should never give you the option to dishonor or embarrass yourself. If you are concerned about what people think about you, then you are going to be miserable for the rest of your life. Now, about this quitting stuff. If that's what you want to do, then fine. But I don't keep quitters around me. Okay. I mean, so let's talk to me about that conversation with Dr. Morrow.
So first and foremost, again, shout out to the David E. Morrow, the director of the Morehouse College Glee Club. This was during a time when I was a student there. And it was a lot going on. I had a child out of wedlock. And again, because people have these assumptions of you, they immediately went into the what, and so it was just a lot. And being someone who never really went through all of that, it was a lot. I was away in college and just trying to, and I hadn't told anyone. I had the child in my family, so I'm still hiding that and everything else, and it was just a lot going on. And he kind of said to me, and I appreciate the fact that he said to me, "Listen, a lot of the pain and struggle that you're going through, you brought on. It's not because it's simply because of the fact you allow people to come into your space and tear up your life." And I took that to heart, and I still use that to this day. And I start to realize that for many of us, we're not irritated that people are frustrating us. We're irritated with ourselves that we allowed people to get us to that place, right? We're upset with ourselves because we invited this into. We're not upset that this person, did this or did that. No, we're mad because we allowed ourselves to even get close enough to do that. And so for me, I took that as, you got all this freedom. You're here at college, you're away, you're engaging and everything else, but that doesn't give you the option to dishonor yourself or to just go buck wild and just be whomever you want to be and still not, and you lose yourself in the process. And so for me, this chapter just really talks about just being very careful about losing your authenticity and trying to become everything for everybody just to please the people. And sometimes, even when God gives us this, God gives us free will, right? God gives us free will, and he wants us to do right, but he gives you the free will to do. But be mindful, with those free wills comes consequences, and consequences just simply mean outcomes. And so you have to be willing, grown enough to stand with those consequences should they go awry, right? So him doing that really changed my life, and I have since then utilized that as my motivation to continue to just push forward and just, I hear you talking, but I know I have a purpose, and I have a task to do, and that's how I operate.
And I want to make sure that people get this, because there was a word that you used in there, hiding. Whenever we start hiding something, that creates shame. People, we spend, and that it becomes exhausting. We spend so much time trying to hide this part of our lives and hide that detail because we don't want people to know we are not proud of it. So anytime you are not proud of something, you are ashamed of it. Yes. And just going back to what Dr. Morrow said, and the reason some of that is coming from, we're trying to manage what other people think about that. Yep. And it doesn't matter what they are thinking about that. And the other thing is just having somebody in your corner like Dr. Morrow, because what I felt and read in all of that is you felt safe enough with him to share, to say, this is what I feel. And it's always good to have that person in your corner.
Yeah, he was always there for everybody, even still to this day. He's and I love the fact that he is always brutally honest. Sometimes a little too brutally honest.
Okay. So we're moving on. We're gonna skip to
keep running. Okay.
Okay. There's a chapter in here where you talk about basically becoming successful, and everybody is not going to be happy for you. Everybody is not going to, and really what that is. And I like the way that you broke it down, and the way you, the language that you used around it, and really don't take that personally, because it's not about you. More times they are mad at themselves because they didn't have the courage to start. And I just even like how you use the word courage, with all of that.
And there's I think that's around the story of me talking about. I think it was about the story about me jumping into the swimming pool. And I think it's talking about going into the deep end. Everybody, we use the shallow. We use that shallow end. The shallow end of the pool is just simply to learn how to swim. You're not supposed to be in the shallow end forever, right? Eventually, you're supposed to go into the deep end. And when you're doing things, and when you are challenging yourself, not everybody is going to be happy that you're challenging, because they don't have the courage, or they don't have the wherewithal to actually say, I'll just stay on this side of the rope, right? I'm not going to go into as long as my feet can touch the ground, I'm okay. But when that floor starts falling, we gonna come on back. I ain't sweat. I'm comfortable right here, And unfortunately, many people will talk you out of going over because they're not comfortable. And you have to realize that you have that strength, and you just have to be you have to be be courageous in your actions with that.
Yeah, and I want you all to take away the word courageous. We had that on the previous episode, and I love that word because it's a tool that you get to use. Now, you tell me, what is your favorite chapter in this book?
Oh, buddy. So my favorite chapter, I think if I had to pinpoint, I think I have two favorite chapters. So my favorite chapter is the very end, and it's a setup for part 2. Stop telling your dreams to people who don't sleep. That is probably one of my favorite chapters and one of my favorite quotes that I've come up with. Stop telling your dreams to people who don't sleep, because you got to be very careful. People who don't sleep don't dream. People who don't dream have no direction. And so you have to be very careful about people who are dream killers, right? Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not possible. Because the dream didn't come to you, it came to me. And so you just got to be very careful about, how you engage people in that. And then I think another one, they're all really good, but I think the other one is stay open to correction. Stay open to correction. You don't know it all. And if I'm talking to anybody on this screen right here, you don't know it all. So I don't know, if someone told you that you're the smart, listen, if you're the smartest person in the room, you just became the dumbest person, because you never should be the smartest person in the room. You should never be the smartest person in the room. It's because that means you never have, you have no room to grow. The smartest person in the room is the person who put other smart people in the room to create to collectively fix the solution, right? And so if you're the smartest person in the room, you just became the dumbest person. Yeah. So stay open to correction.
We can you believe that we have arrived at 30 minutes? We are at our time.
Done.
We're gonna do an Instagram live together because we
already said that. We did say that we gotta do Instagram live.
We gotta do an Instagram live because I'm gonna tell you, he can just really go there, and I love his perspective. Now, how can people learn more about you? How can they book you? How can they purchase this book?
Okay, so you can actually go to my website at www.iamdrpickett.com. Now, you can go to Amazon and buy the book, but if you want a personal signed copy from me, I actually do have the books. So there is a link on my website where you can actually purchase the book. You can actually email me as well. So again, it's www.iamdrpickett.com as my website. And you can find me on all social media outlets at iamdrpickett. So I am Dr. Pickett. So that's everywhere. The tagline is right there. It is right there. So you can find me everywhere on there. I am Dr. Pickett, and of course the website at iamdrpickett.com.
Well, fantastic. Thank you all so much. Please, if you are watching the replay, support this author, support this wonderful author, because it certainly is my wish to have additional body of work from him. So you could have been anywhere in this world, but you chose to rock and roll with Dr. Pickett and I today, and we don't take that lightly. Dr. Pickett, I'm going to give you the last word. Go ahead.
Again, just thank you first and foremost, Kim. And I want to correct that. We've actually known each other longer than 4 years. We've actually known each other. It's been about 2016. It was around that time. I think it was actually a little earlier than that. I think we've been longer because I was running for school board during that time. So it was like 2014. Wow. About almost 7 years. Wow. Needless to say, you have really been a beacon of hope and inspiration, even for me. One of the things I tell people often, always have people in your corner who will encourage you, will be cheerleaders. And every time I've wanted to do something, whether it be speeches, whether it be discussions, Kim has always been that cheerleader. And so I appreciate the platform that God has provided for you. And allowing this ability to be able to help others. And my prayer for everyone is that you begin to see the people in your lives who are your encouragement pieces, who are your cheerleaders, sometimes maybe in silent cheerleaders, even when you don't see it. Just keep going, keep striving, because there is somebody screaming your name who is shouting to the heavens for you, even if you don't see it. And every day that you wake up, that was somebody who cheered and prayed for you. And so I hope that continues to encourage you to continue to move forward.
Absolutely. Thank you. And this broadcast ends in 5, 4, 3, 2,